This meeting of the Conshohocken Borough Council duly open and ready to conduct any business that may come before it. Roll call.
Councilmember Totino.
Present.
Councilmember Griffin.
Here.
Councilmember Sokolowski.
Here.
Councilmember Barton.
Here.
Councilmember Stokely.
Here.
Vice President Flanagan.
Here.
President Leonard.
Here.
Mayor Aronson.
Here.
Thank you.
Borough Council.
O divine Master, in deep humility, we place ourselves, our thoughts, and our plans in thy hands. We beg thee to fill our minds and our wills with the gifts of wisdom, understanding, counsel, fortitude, knowledge, and piety. Help us not to think of self or personal desires, but rather consider the responsibilities laid upon us. Help us to promote as far as possible the welfare of our people and to treat them with impartiality and justice. Grant us the power to set a good example in thought, word, and deed, so that thy blessings will be showered upon us and the people we represent. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda is the proclamation for Paul McConnell bench dedication. Mayor Aronson.
Thank you. On Sunday, the community garden is going to host a dedication to our former council president, Paul McConnell. The garden will open at 3 p.m. and then the ceremony will be at 4 p.m. So it's an open invitation to all of you and obviously to residents. Should we read it? Okay. Whereas Paul McConnell served 2 terms as Ward 3 Borough Council member from 2018 to 2016, and whereas Mr. McConnell was elected as Borough Council President from 2010 to 2016, and whereas during his council presidency he signed the Conshohocken Human Relations Ordinance in 2011, the second ever in Montgomery County, and whereas he was instrumental in the creation of the Environmental Advisory Council, the Conshohocken Dog Park, and the Conshohocken Community Garden. And whereas Mr. McConnell was a dedicated member of the Conshohocken Plymouth White Marsh Rotary Club from 2014 to 2019, taking particular interest in eradicating poverty. And now, therefore, I, Yaniv Aronson, Mayor of the Borough of Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, on behalf of the members of Borough Council and citizens of Conshohocken, do hereby proclaim May 19th, 2019, to commemorate this bench and plaque in honor of Paul G. McConnell for service to his community to be placed hereafter within the Conshohocken Community Garden.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the presentation of amended TIF plan for 7 Tower Bridge. David Unkovic,
Yes,
McNeese, Wallace, and Nurick.
Good evening,
Mr.
members of
Ross.
council. It's nice to be back. We're here tonight to talk and brief you on 7 Tower Bridge. 7 Tower Bridge is the 11th building, not the 7th building. Oliver Tyrone Pulver Corporation, Don Pulver, developed 5 buildings in West Conshohocken, including the Marriott Hotel, and 5 buildings in Conshohocken, including the Residence Inn. This is the 11th building. Of all those buildings, this is the only one that includes the creation of a TIF district for tax increment financing. We're here to present, and David will present to you with the PowerPoint, the proposed amended TIF project. The district was originally created in 2008, and when the district was created, the real estate market then had problems, and we've been unable to move forward with the project since then. However, now we have a substantial tenant that has entered into negotiations to lease space and entered into a letter of intent, and that's Hamilton Lane. They will take approximately almost a half of the building, which enables the project to move forward, which means that equity investors and construction financing can be put in place, and that is what we are working on. The TIF project that was approved in the district, that was approved in 2008, is substantially the same. The building is the same. The only difference is that with the passage of time, the numbers have changed. We have appeared before the county commissioners, and we have no reason to think they're not supportive. We're appearing before the school district, Colonial School District, tomorrow night, and we'll see what their position is. And tonight, we are here to make a presentation to you and request that you adopt a resolution that would enable the district to continue and would establish a July 5th date for there to be a hearing on the TIF. And with that, I'd like to present David Unkovic. To David's left is Ellen Pulver Flatt, and behind Ellen is Esther Pulver. And I know you're all familiar with Esther, and we're pleased to be here tonight to continue this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Dave Unkovic. I'm glad to be here. And I have a few slides, which I'll go through with you. The first slide talks about the project history, some of which Ross Weiss just talked about. But you went through the process under the TIF statute, which is a Pennsylvania statute, to create this tax increment finance district in 2008. And the school district and the county at that time also endorsed the project. The site is the old Florig manufacturing plant. It's on 3 acres on Washington Street. So that site has remained the same. In 2010, as a result of the developer getting some other funds, they cleared the site of the old manufacturing plant and put in the pilings for the new office building. So at this point in time, it's literally even more than shovel ready. They're ready to buy the steel and start building. In February of this year, the developer signed a letter of intent with Hamilton Lane, which is a global asset management firm. And so they're looking to take, as Ross said, almost half of the building. And over time, they're looking to grow quickly, and they have certain rights under their lease to get additional space in the building over time. But the initial term is 17 years that they're signing up for in the building. So we're planning to start construction in June of this year, and then complete construction by the end of 2020 and start occupying the building at the beginning of 2021. So that's the general schedule. Go forward here. So the impact of the project, as Ross mentioned, there have been a series of projects with which the developer has done in the borough and in West Conshohocken. And over the years, those and other projects have helped generate lots of revenues for the borough so you can increase your budget over time. As I mentioned, the letter of intent has been signed with Hamilton Lane for a 17-year term. And they're looking to grow their number of employees once they move in. And it's a great firm, which Ellen can talk about a little bit at some point here. But so this project will generate financial benefits for the borough. First of all, it assists in removing the blighted old manufacturing site, and it promotes the redevelopment of the riverfront and helps the property values of surrounding properties in that area. And it will contribute significant incremental real estate taxes, also income taxes and business privilege tax revenues over time. Here are some of the numbers. So based on some assumptions, we're assuming that over time the annual tax revenue from the project will generate for the 3 taxing entities over $1 million of real estate taxes, business privilege taxes, income tax revenue, and local service taxes totaling about $1.7 million per year. And then under the TIF, what we do is we take the assessment of the property back in 2009 when the TIF was created. And that was about $766,000 was the assessment for the property at that point in time, times the 4 mills, which was the millage that the borough had in place at that time. And that generates a base amount of tax revenues of $3,066,000. I'm sorry, $3,066 per year. And so there's that base tax increment that's the old assessment. Once the building is built and we get a new assessment, which the county has estimated to be about $36 million, then you take the 4 mills and you multiply it by the $36 million. And that generates what's called the increment, the increment of $142,000 a year. Your contribution, as you can see in the second chart there, is you're dedicating 90% of those tax increments to pay debt service on the debt that's being issued by the redevelopment authority to help build the project. It's part of the financing package to build the project. So your contribution would be $128,257 a year. So that's the incremental tax revenue. That's your 90% of the increased taxes that would go toward paying the debt on the financing. You're dedicating that amount for 10 years. So we didn't try to change anything in the project that we could keep the same in terms of this TIF. So the TIF was approved in 2009. It was approved for 20 years. For various reasons, the project didn't get going for 10 years. So now that we're 10 years down the road, we're not asking you to go out 20 years. We're just asking you to finish the original 20 years. So these tax revenues will kick off for 10 years up through 2029. And then after that, any taxes that come out of the property, you keep 100% of that.
Can I ask a question in between?
Yes.
So the 128,257, that's the municipality's portion of this, is on the 766 initial assessment, or that is the average between the 766 initial assessment and, let's say, 2 years to build the project, and then the 36 million? I'm just trying to understand where that 128 exactly came from.
Sure. The original base assessment, based on the 766,000, that's your bottom line base, all right? So that kicks off in tax revenues to you $3,066, and you're going to keep that. All right, so we're starting with that. So starting at that point and then going up to the 36 million that the property will be assessed at when it's completed. Your millage times that is the tax increment, right? And then that tax increment times 90%, that's your contribution to the TIF debt service. So
So for the first 2 years, we'll be paying the lower number, and then when it gets reassessed, we'll be paying a higher number, or,
the lower number you keep.
okay,
Okay, it's the amounts that go over that. So initially, the property is currently assessed at about 3 million?
Yes.
Okay.
Now it is. So
Because of all the improvements on the site. So
Okay.
the county now assesses it at about 3 million. So the difference between the 766, right?
Right.
And the 3 million, that's what will kick in initially.
right.
Once the building is completed, then you're up to 36 million, and you're talking about,
So there will be
lot
an incremental
Increase.
yes,
change in our budget line for
yes,
revenue.
yes.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
It'll be a smaller amount.
It's not gonna look the same this year as it will look in 5 years.
Correct,
Thank you.
yes. Once the building is built and assessed at the 36 million, then it'll be fully in place at that point. going
And when
forward.
it's fully in place, we would expect to pay at the highest number, or we would expect the increment, the TIF, to be 128,257.
Yeah, the 90% number generates
It wouldn't
128.
be higher than that,
Right,
for sure.
yes. And
That's a
what we're
question.
doing is that when you count the school districts and the county's contribution, it's 368,000 a year.
Right.
And that's what we're plugging as our debt service number. So
For
the principal and
off
interest on the
36
debt.
million.
Yes.
Okay, all right, I'm
So,
good,
yeah,
thank
So
you.
the debt service will be around 368,000. So we're looking for you to generate that much to cover that portion of the debt service.
Okay,
So
I
your
understand
portion
that
is
number.
about 35%.
Gotcha, I understand the number
And,
now.
yeah, and the
Thank
school's
you.
like 41%, and the county's about 23%.
This is 90.
Okay.
Looking at that.
Any other questions on that?
On that number, no, I'm good with
Okay.
that number now.
And this is the timeline. So, as you know, you all went through this process in 2008, and
We did
basically
not.
approved things, but.
We did not.
I know you did not.
Many of us were not here.
We did.
You did, okay.
So we're gonna have a lot of questions, probably.
Oh, that's fine. But what's going on under the statute is if you have a substantial amendment to the project, which in this case is not the facility. It is what it is. It's the same building. They're going to still do the same thing they would have done 10 years ago, except they're starting now. The difference is just the numbers have changed because the cost of building the building was 77 million 10 years ago. It's now 122 million. So it's
Is that a normal increase, that almost 40% over 10 years? I'm just asking industry-wide. Construction costs have gone up 40% in 10 years.
well, they've gone up about 6% a year. Is that the usual?
I
So
don't know exactly, but I know that construction costs have gone up a lot during
Yeah.
that particular 10-year period as the economy has recovered and building has boomed. See
Okay.
everywhere there's cranes, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of competition to obtain the construction work.
Okay, thank you.
So that's why we're going through the process again and coming back to the taxing bodies to ask you to re-endorse the program. Okay, so we had initial meetings. These were not public meetings, but with representatives of the borough and the county, and also with the school district in the last couple of weeks. The statute requires a public hearing on the project, which we asked you to schedule at your June 5th meeting, which thank you for doing that. So the advertisement ran in the paper on May 6th. It's a 30-day notice for the June 5th hearing. We've prepared an amended project plan. There was a project plan that was done in 2008, so we took that one and just updated the numbers in that. And that's been circulated to all of the taxing bodies. And so we're here tonight to ask you to adopt a resolution to opt into the project again. And we're also meeting tomorrow with the county commissioners and with the school board, asking them to also pass similar resolutions. So hopefully this week, the three taxing bodies will indicate that they're remaining with the TIF program here. The TIF, we're also looking for it to be guaranteed by the Commonwealth Financing Authority, which is a state agency. It's run by the Department of Community and Economic Development. They approved a guarantee for this project in 2014 and 15, but the time frame to close, we didn't meet because of the real estate market. But at this point in time, we've gone back to CFA, Commonwealth Financing Authority, and asked them to reapprove their guarantee. Their meeting is on May 22nd of their board to take that action. And then on June 5th, we would hold a public hearing here at your next meeting to take any public input. And then the statute requires that you, as the creating entity of the TIF district, pass another resolution at least 3 weeks after the public hearing. So that would be, on or after June 26th. And that's currently scheduled for your July 17 meeting. And that resolution just touches some of the bases required under the TIF statute for putting the financing in place. And then, as I said before, they're looking to start construction this summer and complete it by the end of 2020. So that's the time frame. Be glad to answer any other questions that you have.
I do have a question. I understand that you're asking us to make the resolution for the TIF for tonight. And you're also asking for, or they're asking for the $2 million loan again from UDAC. I'm curious as to why, with the financing that you have in place for, what is it, $74 million? Why you need $2 million from the borough?
Okay, I'll let Ellen Flatt address that. Do you want to come up here?
Sure. So the $2 million UDAG recycling is needed, I'm sorry, the $2 million UDAG recycling is needed separate from the TIF, but because in order to secure the lead tenant, Hamilton Lane, to come in and commit to coming into a building that hasn't been built yet, we had to offer very competitive rent. We feel that it's really going to be a great tenant because they agreed to a really long term and they have really good financial credibility, which makes it a viable project. But because we had to offer that very competitive rent and also other lease terms, the financing and the returns that are required in order to attract the equity financing and the construction debt is very narrow. And so in order to be able to meet those needs, in order to attract the equity and have them commit to the project, they're going to be bringing in about $38 million and then having construction financing of $75 million. They need to have a certain return, and in order to meet those return requirements, we need to have the additional funds. That's why we're requesting the $2 million UDAG recycling. So it's a very tight market. You know, we have the Hamilton Lane lead tenancy is about 50% of the building, and the requirements of financing organizations now are very significant. You know, so 50% is very kind of tight. If we had 100% leasing, that would be easier to obtain, like much more broad options for financing, because we only have 50% right now. In order to get the building started, we need to be able to provide these returns based on just the 50% leased. So
Okay,
I hope that helps answer your question.
kind of, yes.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
So when I look at the numbers that are being proposed in this resolution that was agreed upon in prior councils back in 2008, I'm looking at the school district of 25% of the tax increments, the municipality 90% of the tax increments, and the county 90% of the tax increments. When I look at specifically the municipality, comes out to be $128,000 a year for 10 years. So that's $1.2 million you're asking the municipality to basically put back into the project so that you can build the project, correct? So that's $1.2 million of our taxpayers' revenue, correct? So we have we have a responsibility to our residents.
Fiduciary?
To make sure that we understand where the dollars are going, especially we know that money is hard and tight, and we have infrastructure issues of our own where we are trying to find $30 million and how to fund $30 million on our infrastructure plan. So the reason we're asking these questions are we've got to completely understand what it is we're agreeing to. So from a strategy perspective, that we set up future councils not to necessarily be in the same type of predicament where they're trying to find money to fund stuff currently, and we're still being asked for additional. That being said, the school tax piece of it comes out to $1.5 million. Again, still a portion of our residents' tax contributions, and then the county comes out to about $800,000. So in the end, you're asking us to do the resolution to fund $3 million.
Plus the $2 million.
Plus the $2 million. And then there's some other money that is out there that we have sitting from years ago. So we really have to understand these numbers. So I'm not in any situation that I'm ready to even say yes to a resolution yet until I totally bake this. So I need to keep asking questions. Okay.
If I can point out one thing, which is, you're right, it's 1.2 million would be the tax increments that you'd be dedicating to the debt service on the cost of building the building. The original deal, back when you adopted and created the district in 2008, would have gone for 20 years. And the annual amount then, based on an assessment that's lower than 36 million, it was about 30 million back then, you would have kicked in 109,000, or about 110,000 a year. And if you multiply that by 20 years, your contribution would have been about 2.2 million.
Right, so it's still about the same.
Well, it's about, this is 900,000 less than that, so it's 1.2 million
But
roughly.
we just talked about the
versus
cost of
2.2.
living and the cost of things going up. So in proportion, it's proportionate to the same dollar figure, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we were trying not to change the deal, but the aggregate all-in dollars from the tax increments that you'd be contributing is down from about 2.2 million to about 1.2 million, just because of the passage of time. So.
Right.
I have a question too. I feel like you're asking us to move rather quickly for June 5th. We have questions to ask about the TIF, but also we don't have final terms yet, so it's going to be difficult for us to deliberate until we have the final terms. So how soon will we know what the interest would be, what type of parking that's tied to the UDAG, the concessions that we're looking for, the mutually beneficial agreement on parking? We haven't got those final plans yet. So that only gives us 2 weeks, three maybe.
I think what Vice President Flanagan is talking about is and what council in general is talking about. There's a package component to this. I understand that tonight we're talking about the TIF, but when they're looking globally in terms of the total dollars that are being allocated towards this project and or projects that are associated with this project. So we've been approached with the TIF, we've been approached with the UDAG recycling, we've been approached with that somehow being tied to parking, and they don't have what they need to see the whole package to say, okay, we're comfortable moving in this direction. So I think the question is, and I know that we've had numerous conversations, but now you're asking us, it's now May 15th.
Where is the other side of the
Yeah.
package is what we're asking.
Right.
So I think, and I apologize that we don't have the actual, everything done. I mean, I think we've been trying to work on a lot of different things to make this project come together, which is kind of one of the reasons why some things aren't as quickly coming together as we would like. However, we've been talking internally, we've met with Stephanie and Mike Peters a few times and talked about terms. We really want to provide a valuable offer to the borough in terms of the parking. We've been a partner to the borough for many, many years in offering the parking of 2 Tower Bridge and the municipal deck. We want to work with you. And as far as the terms, we understand that the council wants to limit it to $2 million. We've heard that from you all, which is, we're okay with that. We want to offer the parking. In exchange for that, we've talked about a term of 20 years, an additional term of 20 years. Right now, it's going to terminate in about 2 years or 2.5 years. So it'd be a longer term for the borough. Some additional daytime parking, we've talked to Mike and Stephanie about, in the range of 10 additional parking spots, in addition to the 221 spaces that are currently available from 6 p.m. until 2 a.m., so that you have substantial usage of the parking lot. So we want to offer that to the borough so that we can continue that long relationship that we have of helping you guys to solve the parking issue in this town, and we understand that we're trying to help you with that. So as far as, that's basically what we've been thinking about in our own minds. And then it comes down to some of the, the ongoing costs of operation of the parking garage, because that costs money. It's a 27-year-old parking garage, yeah. So that it requires maintenance to be safe and usable for the residents. So there's that cost to also consider. So
Right, and we haven't gotten to quite the details on that yet either.
right. So I mean, I think we have it ready to send to you guys. Not by today, I'm sorry about that, but we can certainly provide more details. But that's the spirit of the cooperation. We've had a long relationship with the borough, and we hope to continue that. We want to be a good neighbor.
Right.
And so we hope that we can, I'm confident that we can work it out on mutually agreeable terms that will allow you to have another long term of parking, and we can have a garage that's safe and usable without it being, have a detrimental effect on the tenants, so that the cost has to be shared for the operation and maintenance. So that's basically what it comes down to. So.
And just to clarify, mutually beneficial. So the last conversation that we had, Mike and I, on the call, was that the terms that were presented, there were some issues with those terms.
Yes.
So
yes.
I guess for tonight, if that what's in front of council is to pass a resolution to opt in only to the TIF. Mm-hmm. I guess, is there some sort of confirmation you can give or clarification that the terms you're going to come back with, since we don't have them in front of us,
Yeah.
are going to be different than what was discussed on that
They will be,
conference call?
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, they will be different, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, we want to work with you. We heard you. So, yeah. So I'm hoping that helps. We do need the TIF today, and the timing is very tight, because we're trying to close on the construction financing and start the building. And without this, we have to come up with it some other way if we don't get the TIF, so.
So how can we be guaranteed that if we pass it tonight, that we're going to get
I'm not ready to pass it.
what we need for parking?
Can we clarify what
TIF is only part.
is what the resolution tonight is actually doing?
Yes,
This is what we need.
this resolution, the operative paragraph is number 1 there. So the borough agrees to continue to participate in the 7 Tower Bridge TIF district and shall so participate under the amended project plan, substantially in the form presented to the meeting, subject to such changes in the amended plan as may be approved and/or required by Borough Council of the Borough of Conshohocken, acting through the President of Council with the advice of the Borough Solicitor and Borough Manager. So you have to take two public actions in connection with this TIF process. This is the first resolution. There's a second resolution which has to be at least 3 weeks after the public hearing, which is on June 5th. So if you were going to reverse course, you would have the opportunity to do that in connection with the second resolution. So by opting in today, you're opting in and expressing your intent, good faith intent to move forward, but it's not an irrevocable decision with respect to the TIF. And that, that would play into your other negotiations on the other matters.
The reasoning for the need for a resolution, if the TIF already exists because it was approved in 2008, 2009.
Yes.
This resolution is necessary. Why?
The statute, back in the original approvals, the statute requires the three taxing bodies to opt in to the TIF plan.
Mm-hmm. Which was done, correct?
Which was done back then.
Right, so.
And then there's the public hearing, and then you created the TIF at least 3 weeks after that public hearing that was done back in 2008. Because of substantial changes to the plan, which were due to the numbers changing, the statute requires that we go back through the process again. We come back to the three taxing bodies, make sure they're all opting into the program.
So does each body have to do a resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
The other two are doing theirs tomorrow.
Okay.
And that's their only action. The reason you have two actions is because you're the entity that actually has created the district.
Okay.
So you have a bigger participation in the process under the statute than the school district and the county do.
So what happens if tomorrow they do not accept it, or we do not accept it? If one of the bodies doesn't accept it? I'm just trying to learn.
Well,
So I
it's
need
not going to
help
go
learn.
forward without the three taxing bodies involved, because
You'll have to agree to three taxes.
the $368,000 a year, that's what's going to be necessary to issue the debt to help build the building. And if we don't have $368,000, that debt is not going to happen. And as the developer will tell you, all the pieces of debt are important. So if that doesn't happen, it could have an effect on getting the project done.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2% of the total project, right? So it's $3 million, drop in the bucket, but not really a drop in the bucket for a 1 square mile town who has a $30 million infrastructure debt that we've got to figure out. So we need to make sure, and what this building does is this adds stress to our infrastructure, to our fire department, our police department, our roads. So from a strategy perspective, I need to be comfortable that I understand this and can explain this to my taxpayers, why I'm not fixing their roads that are caving in, but I am saying it's okay to move forward with this. And this wasn't mine that I signed originally, and I would have never signed a 20-year silly agreement like this because that's too long, and I'm part of my business sense would have said that wasn't smart. But now that we're in it, I need to understand it so that I can explain it and set our future.
Right. With any TIF district, if the project doesn't happen, then there are no additional taxes.
Right.
Because the assessment won't go up. So if the project doesn't happen, the assessment will stay at $3 million, and that's all that you'll get in the other. So, the public policy argument in favor of the TIF is that over time, it'll generate more tax revenues than if this project doesn't happen.
Right.
So, and I know that doesn't answer your immediate budget questions.
No, it doesn't, but I also have to be able to say, why am I agreeing to all this development in 1 square mile? And one of the things is this development was all planned out many years ago, and what's happening now is it's coming to fruition. So now that it's coming to fruition, people don't quite understand that things that we signed 10 years ago come to fruition later, and then we have to figure out how that's going to look in a community. And since 10 years ago, the community has really started developing again,
Yes.
and it's starting to wear on our residents a little bit. So we need to understand and be able to talk about why it's good for the community, where the tax base comes in the future, and how that, provides them additional amenities in the future. And I just have to be able to understand all of that to be able to speak to that.
And wouldn't that, David, all be presented at the June 5th hearing?
Yes, at the public hearing.
A little late
Good.
for me to make a decision on that.
No, yeah.
But it's going to be presented to staff and to you as we work towards the June 5th hearing. All that we're asking for tonight is that the resolution that will allow us to continue the process be adopted. The process isn't finished until the June 5th hearing takes place, until the two other taxing bodies adopt the same resolution, and until you take the official action at your July 17th meeting. Now, you have identified other pending issues that you want to see resolved, and there's time to resolve them. We've been working on them, but please understand that to get the building developed, it is not we do one thing and then we do another thing. Everything is going at the same time. The construction, the planning with the staff and the engineer, the lining up the equity investment, the lining up the tenant. There's a dozen things that are all taking place at one time. One individual piece that becomes a pothole can destroy the project. And while this amount of money may not seem like a lot, in the bigger scheme, it's another piece. And we understand how important it is for you to be able to justify something like this to your electorate and to your taxpayers. But right now, the borough has had all this development, and there's a black eye. And the black eye is that the Tower Bridge parcel only has a foundation and has only had a foundation for the last 7 and 8 years. And the people that come here, that come to this community, see that that's not finished. And we're doing everything we can with you to try and complete it. There are also other taxes that David identified that are enhancements to the borough. The project also includes a $300,000 payment to the borough for improvements along the river. It includes another $100,000 as an open space payment. All of these features and money amounts were built in when the project was approved back in 2008. So there is money that you and your taxpayers are entitled to that are being held back until we can get the building built.
And were they hard dollars agreed to before, or is there then interest and changes in dollar amounts because 10 years later that same dollar is worth a different amount now?
No, those dollar amounts were the amounts that we agreed to when the project was approved. It does not include an enhancement based on inflation or interest or anything, and it's still a significant amount of money. And the other thing I think to recognize when I refer to this site as being a black eye for the borough is that for the borough's property values, for the people that live here, so many of your residents work in these buildings, that this is just another enhancement. Now, people will talk about the traffic, but Amerisource Bergen has selected Conshohocken as the place it wants to be. You have Brixmore and Two Tower Bridge. On both sides of the river, this is a destination. We have to work together to complete it and get this 11th building up. It's just a major benefit to everybody. And again, tonight, we're not asking you to make your final decision. We're just asking you to please opt in so we can continue the process. And we'll make the same argument, the same pitch tomorrow night to the school district and tomorrow night to the county. And we have no reason to think it won't be accepted. So your leadership role, because you ultimately have to adopt that resolution in July, is critical. But you're not in it alone. You're in it with two other taxing bodies and with us. And we just hope that we can bring this to you.
This is a question to Stephanie and our lawyer. If this moves forward, and this sets a precedent, we have other development that still is kind of working its way through the process.
Correct.
Are we at risk for others to come back and ask for the same thing?
No. No, and the reason is that Conshohocken's just, when this was created, things were different. Now, if someone came in and requested a TIF, I think, one, council has changed over, so chances are, based on this conversation tonight, you would not create one. And two, it would be a little harder to justify today, especially with what we saw with Amerisource. I mean, they didn't even make the, well, not Amerisource, but Keystone, they didn't make the request because there were different funding sources that they went after.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, you know, I know it was
Right.
different times, and I know that it was during the redevelopment, and it was necessary to get things moving back then. It's just now that we're this far into it, it's not necessarily necessary now. It's necessary for you to complete your project, but it's not necessarily necessary for us.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out one thing, and that is that the financial impact of the project, so the idea here is to get the building built so that your taxes go up, right? Your tax revenue is going to increase, so that after this period of time is over, you're going to be able to keep 100% of everything that you get, which is going to be a lot of money, actually. I don't know, it's not a part of this slide, but if you aggregated the amount over time, it'd actually be a really great deal of money because of the tax that's being generated. So we kind of hope that you see it somewhat as a win-win, because by it sitting the way it is at $3 million, your tax revenue is really low. When we get the project built, your revenues are going to immediately go up, and you're going to get to keep them for good. So that's going to really
Can we use that when we're asking for money to fund our infrastructure? Can we use that we'll have extra money 10 years down the road?
Not from not from an initial
for us.
financing
Okay,
perspective, no.
so that won't do anything for us?
No, it won't. So
from
you'll
that
have future
perspective?
revenue,
Okay.
no.
All right, I just
No,
asking.
any financing decisions are
But
going
it's
to
a
be
lot of money.
based off
I don't
of-
have that number, but
Right.
it's okay.
So,
You know, I get it, I get it.
Anyway,
I just,
that's sort of the idea, I guess, to make it
right, but 10
palatable.
years is a long time.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
we
and
got
it won't be
big
the full amount,
holes
yeah.
and roads basically caving in.
So
So,
you'll be getting
just-
your, and we've all talked about these taxes a lot with Amerisource, but you'll be getting your business privilege tax and your local service tax. So those two are coming in.
Okay.
But obviously, the real estate tax is the
Right,
whole
so-
point of this.
so we're the lead in this tonight.
You
So if
are.
we don't pass this, we make the other two tax entities nervous, okay?
Well, I think it's
And we can put the brakes on later, okay?
We have
And this-
time, Bob,
This
yes.
project's been sitting here for a long time, and I feel it's ahead of the other buildings because it was started, it's sitting down there, it's got a foundation in it, and I've been looking at it for a lot of years, and if we can get that off the ground, I think it's a good thing. But Tina's right, we have taxpayers, they want to know what we're doing with their money, even though they don't show up in the meetings.
They're watching.
Hopefully they're listening to what we're talking about.
They let us know, though, yeah.
But-
Well, I think that is the message, that as we're considering the resolution tonight, there needs to be consideration on the applicant's part as to the impact on the residents, and we've been trying to negotiate a mutually beneficial decision that provides the resident with some sort of solution that we can justify the use of these dollars. And that package needs to be put together and presented to us.
And
Soon as
it needs to
possible.
be done by the hearing, obviously, and I think,
Yes.
Right.
Before
I think that
Yeah,
you guys
or
you've
then-
got that down.
Yeah, I would
That's
think
fine, yeah.
as soon as possible, so we can maybe have our own little meeting and
digest.
deliberate
Absolutely.
together.
Absolutely.
Because we've
Before
had
a
a history
public
of
meeting.
developers handing us the packet on Friday afternoon or Monday evening when the meeting's on Wednesday with 700 pages to
Right,
read.
right.
So,
And that's a
a little
concern.
bit before that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
You want a guarantee from us, but we want a guarantee from you.
yes,
And I think that's only fair,
right.
and we should have it before the hearing.
Okay, so, on that
Make a
note,
motion.
go
I'll
ahead.
make a motion to the conditions that we talked about tonight. And this is, we get all the things we need before the
It's jumping.
June 5th hearing. Is that okay?
This is the first section of the TIF.
Right, the first section of the TIF.
So Stephanie, how do we need to word that?
It would be
Oh, go ahead.
It would be a motion to approve the resolution as drafted, which already contains language providing that should council require additional conditions, you are able to do so through the council president with Steph and my input. And then obviously the developer will take back the fact that they need to have everything else buttoned up before the hearing.
Second.
We're actually going to do this by roll call for the resolution. Councilmember Totino.
Yes.
Councilmember Griffin.
Yes.
Hold on, do we?
Do you ask the public for input before you pass the resolution? I thought that was the proper procedure, that you ask the public for public comment before you do the resolution.
No, that's not how we do it. There's an opportunity for public comment later.
When?
Later in the agenda.
I know, but then you're already going to pass the resolution, so you're not giving the public the opportunity to have any input in your decision on it.
President Leonard, would you like to make an exception in this particular instance and allow public comment prior to the passing of the resolution?
That would be fine. If you want to come to the front and state your name and address, please.
How you doing? My name's Ed Sale. I come to your meetings periodically through the year. I'm at 200 West Elm Street. It's a great opportunity to develop that property. I walk the trail every day, twice a day with my wife. But is there the possibility, because I was here Monday night for the other development across at the train tracks with the train stations, they're putting up 289 units.
Great.
Any possibility of asking the developers for them to put some kind of contribution towards the infrastructure? We're talking about the $30 million. You can't cross the Harry Street crossing from the buildings coming out at 5 o'clock, from 4:45 to 4:45. You can't cross. That building that you're going to put, they're supposed to put Oak Street, that's going to come right up to where Amerisource is going to be. Is there any way that you can ask in your discussions over the next month with the developers if there's something they can do to help enhance? Can they go to PennDOT? Can they help you with your $30 million infrastructure? That's my only contribution. You know, it's a give, it's a win-win. You talk about a win-win. But I'm a resident, 8 years. The Amerisource is across the street from where I live. That's going to be a great opportunity. But you have to do something about the infrastructure. The traffic is a killer, as well you know.
We do know. We're well aware.
Good comment.
Thank you so much.
And he's 100% right, but you can help us because you own a lot of the property in the borough to put pressure on the train SEPTA, because that train station, I know you're smirking.
Needs to be.
I have a rendering from 2005 in my drawer. See this?
Has a bathroom
No.
too.
Yeah. Bob,
Has a
Bob, can we do this later and go through the motion?
Trying
know.
to get them to help us.
I understand. Well,
I mean, this is very important, I think.
go ahead.
That was supposed to be 10 Tower Bridge on the other side of the bridge. And I worked with Don Pulver and his team, and we tried for years to reach an agreement with SEPTA, and we couldn't. We had plans submitted, you approved the plans, but we needed SEPTA's cooperation, and it takes them so long, I mean, you know this, to make a decision. It didn't happen, and Don had to give up 10 Tower Bridge, and then it went to Brian O'Neill, and I don't know who has it now. But it was
So here
something.
we are again.
But it was something that we tried. The issue about contribution to the infrastructure is a long-term project. And the enhancement of this piece of real estate will be a contributing factor to the borough's long-term project. And by bringing it here, you stand to gain more in revenue towards your $30 million long-term project than you do if the building's not built. And if the
Totally understand, but when I look at my numbers, 1.2 for this, 2 million for this, 2 million for this, we owe you 4 million, all those numbers could have been here and now, and we could have been starting to borrow on the infrastructure. So I understand long-term. That's what I do in my job, strategy and projection. What I have to figure out right now is I'm in the boat that my predecessors kind of set us up for. So now I've got to be creative, and I've got to ask the questions so that I don't put the next group into that same type of predicament. That's all I'm saying.
I haven't heard one question that has not been appropriate. And these are and that's the reason we're here tonight.
Right.
If we would have come here tonight and you would have just adopted the resolution and then we come back on June 5th and ask all these questions, that would be disastrous.
Right.
But by you asking those questions tonight, we now, and we knew this, we now know what we have to do before you make any official decision, either June 5th or July 17th. There is work to be done, but just like everything else in the project, we just have to keep bearing down and working on it. All we're asking for tonight is to keep it going. We've heard everything that you've said, and we know what we have to come back with. We just want to keep it going.
And respectfully, I just want to keep learning because, the development piece is new to me and there's a lot of it going on. So if I don't ask the questions and you guys just happen to be the second group that gets my learning, questions, but I have to understand it to be able to make the right decisions.
We appreciate that, and we thank you for asking those questions.
Okay.
You may be the first ones that have thanked us for it.
Well, don't forget, 2 weeks ago, I apologized for that banner sign, too.
We have a motion on the floor.
Yes.
Do we have a second? Motion by Stokely, seconded by Barton.
Yes.
And now roll call.
Yes.
Councilmember Totino?
Yes.
Councilmember Griffin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sokolowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Barton?
Yes.
Councilmember Stokely?
Yes.
Vice President Flanagan?
Yes.
President Leonard?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is with Mr. Sokolowski, the emergency management drill update. Good evening.
Hello, I'm just going to real quick go over some of the things for this drill on the 22nd of June at 8 a.m. We kind of locked in everything now. It's a go. We're going to probably have about 130 participants in this. We're going to have the FBI here, the Sheriff's Department, Philadelphia Bomb Squad, Montgomery County SWAT Team, Narberth Ambulance, both our fire companies are going to participate, Public Works, a lot of administrative staff, police administrative staff, council people, both Conshohocken, Plymouth, White Marsh, and West Conshohocken will be involved in the active shooter portion of this. Philadelphia is going to dedicate 2 helicopters where they'll be doing a rooftop. They're dropping off guys on the roof, basically. So it's we had a meeting this morning with. We hosted a meeting this morning with all the emergency managers from Montgomery County. It went really well. We had 35 people there, and we had a lot of input. Lasted over 2 hours. So there's a lot of excitement about this. It's for a municipality our size. It doesn't generally happen. But this is going to be, I think, a very good learning experience for everybody. I think Chief Metz would agree that we're going to get a lot out of this. And I thank the council for allowing this to happen. The only thing we need 30 role players for this. So if anybody knows anyone who would like to participate in that, we're actually going to bring in a company that is going to put makeup on people and make it look like they have wounds. So it's going to be a good event. So if you have anybody that wants to participate, let Allison know, and Allison's going to be coordinating that.
Okay. No.
It's fine.
No.
What time do you want council to arrive? It starts at 9, but what time do you want us to be there?
Everybody should be there in the 8 o'clock period. There's
Around
Mike
8.
Connor's coming here next meeting.
Okay.
And now that we have this all locked in, we're going to be reaching out to you before that. But Mike Connor's going to come in and go over the basic drill for everybody. He did a presentation today to the emergency managers about this, and it went really well. I think this is going to be something that everybody's going to be proud of when it's all said and done.
Has a municipality in the county ever done anything like this at this scale?
There was a lot of wide eyes in the room today when they saw what level we've taken this to. And again, I mean, Mike Connor, he was given a task by the chief, and he
Took it on.
That's,
He went with it. I mean, he was told, let's make this as big as we can and get as many participants as he can, and he rolled with it. So he definitely got a lot of people involved. He's made a lot of connections. I think a lot of people, this morning he even said he made a lot of connections that he hasn't made in his career. People that he's talked to and things that were available to him that he did not know. And that's part of what this is all about. The county is a huge resource, and they have things all over the county besides at their emergency management location nobody really knows about. We know about them now, and when we need them, we're going to get them. You're going to the first time I think you'll see them will be at this event. The next time will be for the fireworks. So there'll be a presence of equipment that we're borrowing from the county for the fireworks that we've never done before. And that relationship is going to continue.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay?
Yep.
Sounds
Thank
great.
Well
Thank you.
done.
Thank you, Ray.
President Leonard, there's one addition to the presentations. It is to introduce the Hispanic Heritage Committee. Councilmember Barton.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this. We just began this association a couple of months ago. We are in the process of getting our act together for the June 1st car art show. And in October, we will be having the Hispanic Heritage.
She's looking at you, Jacqueline. Yeah.
Event. I lost my train of thought there. Wow.
Yeah.
And Jacqueline Rocco
Thank you,
is the
Jacqueline.
lead. Karen Tutina and I are on the association with her, along with about 10 others.
Yes,
Jacqueline.
so I want to thank you guys again. I always feel so humbled and so blessed just whenever I get the opportunity to stand before you to share some information. So I'm just going to be going back and forth because I have some things I wanted to show you guys as I speak. So, yeah, if you don't mind, would you mind sitting there? Yeah. This is a whole packet.
Can you just tell me when you're
Yeah,
ready to go
can you
through
just
it?
put these two first? Okay, thank you. Sorry, guys. Janice, do you mind?
Oh, I gave, is that what, I gave those out.
Oh, you get those out? Okay, all right. So first and foremost, I want to thank you guys, first of all, for allowing me to be here to talk about something that I'm so excited about. As you already know, I am a commissioner under Governor Tom Wolf's office and under Latino Affairs. And last year in November, we actually did our first proclamation reading in Coyote Crossing, which was a great success. So since then, I've been thinking, what can we do? Because I've gotten a lot of people that come up to me afterwards and was like, what can we do? We want to be more presented. We want to be unified, so on and so forth. So after, thinking a few months in January, I said, we should create an association. How would that look like? So given the fact that I am a part of this commission, it's kind of helped me gain some information and knowledge as to what we really need as a community to better represent Hispanics in Montgomery County, southeastern PA. So I wanted to kind of start off, first of all, by reading you a little bit of statistics. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Norman Bristol, but he created the first Pennsylvania Latino Convention, and he actually is the one who has been charged by Governor Tom Wolf to do the 2020 census. And so out of his events, he actually was able to create some research and findings about Hispanics in the state of Pennsylvania. So we are 1 million strong, believe it or not, in the state of Pennsylvania. And out of that 1,500,000 of us are Puerto Ricans. And the rest fall into different categories, and I will kind of share that with you. But I wanted to kind of give you an outlook of what the state is, how the state is looking at the numbers as far as Latinos. We are 896,000 is the Hispanic Latino population. Account for half of the Pennsylvania population. More than 50% of the state's total Latino population, like I said, is Puerto Rican. So on the Census Bureau website, there was an internet data that was kind of released August 18. It talks about, people are always asking what's the difference between Hispanic and Latinos, and so I just want to kind of give you a little bit of just a brief synopsis on that. Hispanics refers to people whose origin is Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Spanish-speaking, Central or South American countries, or other Hispanic countries regarding the race and the cultural of Central American total. So Dominicans are also included in this. So because of this, our mission basically surrounds this. It talks about our mission is basically, we are here to, if you can look at the example that I put up here, we literally are really interested in bringing to the community awareness of our presence by culture, sharing our resources, creating events, also lending support to the local communities in and around southeastern PA. So these are, Philadelphia County, Bucks County, Chester, Delaware, and of course Montgomery County. So with that said, our vision is to kind of bring this awareness through our cultural, and you can look at it here actually, cultural awareness of Latino culture by sharing our resources, creating events, lending support to the local communities in and around southeastern PA. We want to celebrate this through culture, art, of course, history, sharing our language and our awareness of our existence in these boroughs and counties and municipalities. I'm sorry, I'm bilingual. You got to excuse that. So with that said, we already have so many great things. There's a picture, if you can, Brittany, do me a favor, of our current, yes, thank you. Beautiful pictures I put together. So we have a great team, as you can see. We have Cornell Wilson, who's a councilman from Lebanon. We have the founder of Casa de Venezuela, who's part of our committee. We have a retired bilingual teacher, Nilsa Lozada. State Representative Mary Jo Daly is part of our team, and you have your two council borough members, Anita and Karen, myself. We have a retired NBC cameraman, Luis Rosada. We have a director of Parkview Company, Jennifer Rivera, and we have, of course, Matthew Bridenstine. He's involved in everything. I can't even talk about everything. So with that said, we have so many great things lined up for, like Anita mentioned earlier, we have a lot of great things coming up. So if you wanted to, this is just, information that I kind of put together if you guys wanted to look at our core values, our target areas, and I kind of mentioned that really quick. But what we really want to do is kind of focus on on issues that relates to the Hispanic community, bring in resources that is actually at the state level, but how can we make it more local? Because it's kind of hard, for some people to understand, like somebody was just mentioning, all the county services, everybody doesn't know what they are, but bringing them local can help. Understanding who are our keynote speakers when it comes to Latino issues, who are these people, how can we bring them in? Cultural, bringing in, understanding the cultural differences in the history of Hispanic people in the United States, build and create family-based connection programming, and understanding our numbers. The numbers are growing, as far as our population is concerned. So June 1st will be our first coming out to the community event. Thank you. And in this event, we are actually have two different Hispanic groups that are coming. I'm so excited about. The first one is it's a Puerto Rican group, and they do folklore, Caribbean music, and they're drummers. So they also have traditional dancers that will come out and actually do a presentation. The second group is, that group is called Los Bomberos de la Calle. And then the second one is a mariachi Mexican group, and they're actually from Norristown, and they're very popular. And his name is Pedro Villaseñor, and he has a mariachi group. And he has actually restaurants, I learned, in Norristown. So, that's such a small world. But they're coming out as well to support June 1st event and also support us as a group to just allow people to understand that we're present, we're here. We're here to support them. We have future events coming up for Hispanic Heritage Month. We're so excited moving forward. We have an education community roundtable that we're going to be partnering up with GACLA. We're going to be partnering up also with other state leaders. Zacate is another Mexican nonprofit in Norristown. So there's a lot of cool stuff that we're going to be doing. We're actually even thinking about we have the Latino Family Day at the Elmwood Park Zoo for October. Anita's helped really, did so good with that. We're also talking about ending the year with the holiday parranda, which is how we celebrate the holiday season in the Caribbean. And so that's going to be a good introduction to the borough itself. And there's a lot of cool other things that we're going to be doing. That's just some of it. So I wanted to kind of just give you an information with the logo itself. We literally have 21 stars because we have 21 Latin American countries. And if we look at North and Central American countries, we're talking about countries like Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, we have Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, Nicaragua, Panama, so every one of those stars. We have South America, we're talking about Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Bolivia, Chile, Ecuador, French Guiana is a Spanish country, believe it or not, and Guyana, Paraguay, Peru, Guinea, Uruguay, and Venezuela. The Caribbean basically is Cuba, Dominican Republic, and we have Puerto Rico, St. Martinique, and St. Martin, Guadalupe, and St. Bartholomew. So there's a lot of countries to represent, but I think as we grow and become stronger, it'll be nice for us to kind of just bring that awareness to our community. According to the statistics, which ties into the whole comprehension plan, we're representing 896,000, and the census says that 7.6% of us, which is big. But looking at the comprehension plan, it lines up with exactly, it says here, it says Montgomery County's projected population for 2040 is expected to be close to 1 million people, a change of 9.3% the year 2020, and a change of 13% from 2015. So here we are. So we're all growing. And so I just want to not only present who we are as an association, but also, just extend and to just let you know that we're present, but also ask for your support, in the future for events and for just, sharing information and for just having that connection as a community. So I just want to thank you for this opportunity. And like I said, I'm always humble when I come before you guys. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jackie.
Jackie.
Thank you,
for all your
Jacqueline.
work. And we are having a good time.
Good. Okay. The next item on the agenda is approve the April ending treasurer's report and accounts payable.
And note for the record that the accounts payable is the amount of $493,717.20.
I'll make that motion.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The next item under new business is to consider approving the release of 538 Spring Mill Avenue Financial Security Escrow in the amount of $23,188. I would just need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is letter B. I'm going to, there's a slight change. The existing contract has an option to extend the contracts for Nancy Nugent and D-Tech environmental testing for 2 years. So we're going to take advantage of that extension option as opposed to going out for another RFP. Ms. Stetler, did I get that correct?
We're into the second year already.
Okay.
Because we will be asking for the final one-year extension through 2020, at which time we would have to issue another RFP.
Okay, so the language for consideration is to consider authorizing the extension of the existing contracts for Nancy Nugent and D-Tech environmental testing until March 31st, 2020.
Okay.
Would need a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
You already voted on item C, so we are moving to unfinished business. Letter A is to consider approving Resolution 2019-09, which would authorize the submission of the home application.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Item B is to consider approving Resolution 2019-10, which would create a tobacco-free policy for all borough parks, playgrounds, and other recreational areas. We feel that the borough has made concerted efforts to be an environment where we are dedicated to live, work, and play, and we feel that being tobacco-free and being able to join the Young Lungs at Play movement across America is an important initiative that the borough should consider, and this resolution would enable us to apply to that program.
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Item C is going to be tabled for the time being. We are going to move to item D, and item C will be back on your agenda once the ordinance is in front of you. We will do the ordinance first and the resolution second. So item C is tabled. Item D is to consider authorizing the advertisement of Ordinance 4 of 2019, which would establish rules and regulations for the borough's parks, playgrounds, and public recreational areas.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
There are no other items for consideration this evening.
Public comment? Good evening, John.
Good evening. I have two quick things. For the Soapbox Derby, tomorrow night, we have another sign up. It's at the firehouse, number 2 firehouse, from 7 o'clock to about 8:30. So it's the last formal sign up. If anybody can still sign up after tomorrow night, but there's a late fee for signing up late. That's it. And the second thing was, I was really glad to hear you was holding the developer to the fire on the TIF, because that's my biggest question. How does the TIF benefit the residents of the borough?
That's what we wanted to know, too.
Right. So, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. You can come up.
Good evening, my name's Ed Zale, 200 West Elm Street. As I said earlier, I come to your meetings a couple times a year, not asking for $3 million or the meeting on Monday, $30 million. We're talking about $200 here, 200. And this is the third year I've come and asked you about it, and I still haven't gotten any indication, even though last September you did say the gentleman was, and he did say he was putting it on the schedule to put the crosswalks in. Now, it's going to take two guys, half hour, maybe an hour, to put these crosswalks in on Washington Street, Cherry, Ash, and Poplar. I don't know why it's such a big deal, and it's taken me to come 5 different times and ask you for it when last year you said you were going to do it. Finally, something did happen on Elm Street. They took care of that street. It's wonderful. The trucks, we don't hear the noise. It's the residents at 200, 300, 350 Elm Street are just pleased out the wazoo that that's taken care of. But 3 crosswalks on Washington Ave, can anybody explain if there's a problem, if it's not allowed to put them in?
Right?
The crosswalks?
I certainly can explain that.
Go ahead, because I've been waiting for an explanation.
It's very simple. The crosswalks aren't crosswalks.
Why aren't they?
Because there's no depressed curb there.
Aha, see, I knew you were going to come up with that. So that's why I took the pictures.
Right. So
That's why I took the
So
pictures.
we went out there with our engineer
Yeah.
and looked at all of those sites, and because they're not depressed curbs and not handicap accessible, we would leave ourselves up for liability to.
That's
eventually-
only at Harry Street. It's only at Harry. You can look at the pictures.
You want an answer to your question?
Yeah.
I'll answer your question. We took a traffic engineer to all those locations, and a decision had to be made on whether we wanted to take on the liability of putting in crosswalks and handicapped accessible crosswalks at those locations in order to make them accessible.
Okay.
You can't just put lines across the street.
Okay, let me ask you this question.
Without having
Right.
a proper curb.
So you're telling me that there is no handicapped accessible walk from the 2 apartment buildings into the street?
There is accessible curbs.
Yes,
from
there
one
are.
side to the other.
Right.
But there are no crosswalks. One of the crosswalks that you pointed out was Harry Street, I believe.
Harry
There
doesn't. That
is
doesn't.
nothing there.
Right.
So those areas that Those areas that we can do them, we will do them. And those
There's
areas
Cherry
that we can't, we can't.
You have one at Cherry Street. And that's the same, here's Cherry Street, and there
Okay.
is the crosswalk going across. So you do have crosswalk at Cherry and Washington. And it's just, and there
You have
is no.
crosswalks on the apartment sides.
No, you have it going to the train tracks. You have it from,
Nothing on, there is no sidewalk on the opposite side of the street.
Correct.
There's only a sidewalk.
There's not,
but you have a crosswalk.
but there's no sidewalk. I see what he's saying. You're talking about the lines, the crosswalk?
So you're taking.
You'd have to
if
show
you're
that.
subjecting yourself to,
You have to show that to Ray, not.
if you're subjecting yourself to the potential of liability, then you're already exposed at Cherry Street.
Well, the exposure, I'm very familiar with it. So the exposure that we have on those locations are what we're willing to take. That is a depressed curve. That does not mean that's handicap accessible.
This is the
That's completely different than anybody can take a curve and shave it down to the street level to make it handicap accessible, which is what it needs to be for a proper crosswalk. That's where we have an issue. So on the recommendation of our traffic engineer, which we took down there several times, if you've noticed, the train crossing areas now look like a landing strip at Kennedy Airport. And one of the reasons they look that way is because we reached out to SEPTA and showed them that it was a difficult area and the police were having issues with accidents. They came out and marked those crosswalks.
Right, there is
In
no
the
depression,
same
there is no
situation.
handicap there at Harry. I
And
understand that.
we don't even know who owns some of that. There's a dispute as to whether that's SEPTA's responsibility or whether that's the borough's responsibility. These are arguments that we have had for years, and now, again, this is something that we've inherited and we're trying to rectify. But it's not gonna get rectified. It's not like we're overlooking it. We're not overlooking it. We went out, we looked at it, and if we wanna do it as a bigger project, then we can. But an average intersection curb is about $4,500 to $5,000, not including extending any of the sidewalk, just doing the handicap locations. That's where we're at. Some of this is on private property, and we have to deal with the owners of the private property, like Harry Street.
Well, forget Harry, Ash.
Sir, can you please come back up to the podium?
The areas that we think we have an issue with, and we will address in the future, are the areas that I just referenced. So Harry Street is something that is definitely on our map. It's definitely on the map. SORA is going to have, as part of the SORA project, SORA has to make handicap accessible, that's the handicap accessible route from their location down Harry Street to the train station. Part of that is going to be taken care of. Part of the issue with some of this is going to be taken care of as part of that project.
And when will that project happen? 18 months.
Yeah, so when that
You
happens,
s- so-
the borough can look at capital funding to take care of some of the other things that need to be taken care of.
I think the answer to your question is you started your statement by saying that you are requesting something that's $200.
Right.
Our response back to you is based off of our engaging our traffic engineer, which costs about $200 just to engage him.
Right.
It's a cost that exceeds what your expectation is. So while it is incorrect and inaccurate to say that we have not considered your request and we've ignored it since past September, we've done our due diligence and we've engaged our professional to look into your request. We'll
And-
continue to do so, but it's not a $200 fix.
Okay, and who has gotten back to me? Since I came here, I gave my name, where I live.
Understood. And for
3
that,
different
I will
times.
take the blame for that. We should have responded back to you based off of your concern that you expressed in a public meeting.
Right.
If we did do our due diligence, which we did, and we didn't correspond that back to you, then that is my fault. So I'll
So-
apologize for that.
Okay, but then the 500 residents that live in
Yes.
those 2 buildings,
Yes.
those 2 complexes, they have no guided crosswalks to come across the street. Because they don't all just stay there, they do come across.
Understood, but if the infrastructure isn't there, you can't ask the borough to turn around and input the
I know.
infrastructure.
If the infrastructure isn't there. But the fact of the matter still remains, you have an obligation to 500 of your constituents in your zone, in your areas, to do something. And if it's 4,500 for 3 blocks, it's
But
3
you
blocks,
can't do
4,500.
something if there is nothing that can actually be done that doesn't then create additional safety hazard.
So the 500 residents, they're on their own.
I
They're
find
on
it
their own.
hard
There's
to
500
believe
people
that
that
you
live
think
there.
that the borough would leave 500 residents on their own.
Well, you
Everything that
can't do
we-
anything, you said.
Understood that there are some things that we can and cannot do that are outside of our control.
But Ray said it would probably cost at least 4,500 plus some additional cost. But we're only talking about 3. Poplar, cherry, and ash.
That's for the ramps alone, not for extending sidewalks, not for anything else. It would have to be part of the capital plan, and that's something that we will be looking at.
Okay.
It is. Nobody, the accusation of us leaving 500 residents out on the lurch is completely false.
It's not necessary to make that.
I'm taking that accusation a little bit personally, because I also am on the emergency management part of it. There's nobody that's looking out for those people more than this administrative staff has in years. And for you to say something like that, I do take that personally.
Well, I take it personally because I'm the one that's crossing there.
I'm down there every single day.
And I'm out there walking every day. That's where I do the walk, the trail, and come back.
You observe, and you're speaking about people that I care about just as much as you do, whether you believe it or not. And that is a fact, that I care about those people just as much as you do. So I don't turn my back on any of them. We did our due diligence, and I'm telling you there's going to be an answer to it. If it's not in your timeline, then I apologize
No,
for that.
but it's been 3 years I've been coming. 3 years, and now you're telling me it's 18 months away.
You're the only one who's making that.
I know, but who else is coming? Well, you even admitted that. Your citizens don't come.
I think we need to, we're clearly going to have to agree to disagree on this, but what I hope that you leave here with is the fact that the borough has taken active steps that they have not done in years to put together an entire infrastructure plan. And as you witnessed tonight, and you asked specifically, was to hold the developers, their feet to the fire, to actually be able to fund the infrastructure plan that we now know is in place. So we're trying.
Okay.
We are working on it.
And that would be one thing to ask them, because they're doing 7.
Right?
Kick in the $15,000 or $20,000.
We can't do that. So that's not how
All
it
right.
works. But
Well, however you guys work it.
Nothing to do with their project.
Right.
We can't, I mean, that would be illegal to make them take.
And I know that, I know for you that those 3 crosswalks are very important. For us, it's not only just those 3
Oh, I
crosswalks.
know you have the.
It's the whole borough, and
I understand
in
that.
the realm of it, there are a lot of serious problems that we have to consider when we do the budget also, so.
Okay.
Thank
you for your
They're not
time.
being ignored.
Sir, can I give you this suggestion? You live in a Grand, right?
Yep.
And where do you walk where? Along
I go-
the river?
No, I go down to where the train is, the station, cross over Harry, and then go down to the river path and come up Washington.
I'll give you, there's a pedestrian path, there's a pedestrian way across the railroad tracks and Washington Street. It's the bridge. You
Yeah,
can climb a ladder well either way, up and
Yeah.
down. And you'll
that's
never
good
have-
exercise. I understand.
And you'll never
It
have to
is.
touch foot on Washington Street.
Yeah, it's good exercise. I
And
understand
I'm
that.
telling you this because if you're concerned about your safety, there's an alternative.
Well, it's also that 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock.
You'll avoid that too.
Putting 2 more buildings there, those cars, it's going to be a mess. But thank you for at least hearing. Thank you.
thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
Oh, no, you forgot, forgot the council
I
members.
did that twice now. Mayor Aronson? I don't.
I know.
Thank you, Ms. Leonard.
Public comment took too long, we just wiped you right out. Go ahead.
So first off, Saturday, May 18th and Sunday, May 19th, the EEC is going to assist Public Works in delivering our new recycle bins. And rumor has it we'll have some council members there as well. So just letting residents know to keep an eye out. We'll be delivering those and giving out some information about recycling, and that's both days. I want to give a big thank you to the Conshohocken Dog Park Committee for their first big event, reopening the Riverside Dog Park last Saturday. It looks awesome. I don't know if you had a chance to see the park or the pictures. It was the morning after a rainstorm, and there was no mud, which was a huge problem of the previous surface. So so far the material seems to be working. It's kind of like a antibacterial wood chip. So it's ADA accessible, and the dogs seem to love it. And then for the walk around the park, we had about a dozen dog walkers. There was a police escort for all of them around the Londonderry. And I just want to give a big thank you to Public Works. It was a tremendous amount of work to get the material changed over. And, of course, to Lauren and Public Works, Parks and Rec, for working with all the concerns of the pet owners and the Dog Park Committee over the last few months. You also may have noticed that our borough flags are at half-staff today. This was done in honor of Peace Officers Memorial Day, which is designated on May 15th of each year. Today, we recognize those who have been killed or disabled in the line of duty. We also continue to celebrate and thank our police department this week, which is Police Week. On behalf of myself, council, and the residents of Conshohocken Borough, we thank the Conshohocken Police for their service to our community today and every day. And then finally, it's believe it or not, it's our last meeting before the Arts Festival and Car Show. So, yeah, it's crazy. That is going to be June 1st, 12 to 5 p.m. We have 8 bands booked. We have 3 dance troupes, which Jackie told us a little bit about. Destruction Derby team, which I didn't even know existed in Conshohocken, but we have one. They're going to beat up the cars next weekend and then tow them in for the car show. As well as, of course, all of our local artists and car guys. Judging will happen at 4 p.m., and the entire borough is invited, so I hope to see everyone in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bob?
Oh, am I allowed to talk?
Well, Bob, I was trying to be rude. We were just in the middle of a vote when you started talking. That's why I was.
Oh, it's a good.
I understand,
I think the
but
train station is very important in this town.
it is, but it could have waited till after the vote. That's all.
Well, we did enough. We did a lot before the vote. I mean, we talked a lot before the vote anyway. Anyway, the addresses on the homes in Conshohocken, I just want to revisit it again. That we have a lot of homes in the borough that do not have their addresses in the front, and it would be nice to get them in the alleys where there are alleys on the back of the homes, because I think it's very important to the fire department, the police department, any kind of emergency we have in town. So I thought we were working on an ordinance for that.
We will.
Okay.
We will. Yeah, I think you got
Pushed aside.
to the side, Bob, but
Okay.
don't worry.
Kind of like the cat ordinance.
Should I put this on the wall out there?
You should.
Yeah, so you remember?
Thank you for the reminder, and I saw Steph right, so.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Anita?
I'm just excited about everything that's happening within our borough and how we seem to be so community-oriented. And I think it's a big boost for us, and I so love living here.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, Tuesday is Election Day, and there are new voting booths. So if you can give yourself a little extra time, because it's going to be a new process, and it may be a little more hectic than normal at some of the polling locations.
You can also pull that up online and actually take a look at one of the voting machines. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Ike?
No, I'm just go with what Tina said. Tuesday is voting day. I hope you all get out and vote, because if you don't vote, you don't count. So get out and vote. I don't care what you vote or who you vote for, but get out there and vote.
So I've been getting a couple of concerns from residents on the lower end of Maple regarding parking. And I'm sure it's increased pressure because a lot of the activity that, the development that's happening. But I had committed to one individual who had emailed me and asked that I share the concern on live television. And I appreciate that because it's an opportunity for me now to also remind others that may be watching exactly what's happening and how we are recognizing the concerns as part of the parking task force. So just a couple of things that I am going to mention. We all know that the concern that this is a widespread problem throughout Conshohocken, but we have particular concern for certain areas where the pressure is a little greater. So we did pass a resolution for the parking task force in October. And since then, the information was published on the borough site. It was announced at these televised meetings, and I know that I have posted it on my Facebook page as well as other media outlets. So again, this parking task force is comprised of our traffic engineer, our chief of police. We have a representative from the planning commission. We have 3 residents, 4 business owners. In addition to Bob Stokely and myself representing Borough Council, we have Ray for the Director of Public Works, and we have Steph as the Borough Manager. These meetings are open to the public, and we welcome it, encourage it. All ideas are welcomed, and we hope to collect them. We have our traffic engineer right now that's taking inventory, so we know the parking availability and concerns for the borough as a whole. And the particular requests for the lower end of Maple have been around parking lines as well as having permit parking. So the response at this point is that we're looking at all of this. We can't make commitments. Again, it's a whole borough-wide issue. But we are, this council in particular, we are really taking things very seriously and taking action. So I appreciate the concern from this one particular resident, as well as a couple of others that I've heard from, and I am happy to answer questions. I'm happy to, for those that, for whatever reason, are not able to watch the show or attend, I will personally give updates. And everybody else spoke to some of the other issues or points that I wanted to make, but thank you very much. I appreciate it. I hear it all loud and clear.
Anyone else?
Meeting adjourned.